Wednesday, February 27th, 2019 at 6:30. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yet we had another devastating loss last weekend. Please have a moment of silence for Selectwoman Richards' father, who just passed away. Thank you. Our prayers are with the family. Any public comments at this time? I see none for the record. Meeting minutes for 2/6/2019.
Do you want to do them one at a time, or can we do them together?
We could do one at a time, it's fine.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the minutes of February 6th, 2019 as written.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a second?
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? See none. Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of February 13th, 2019 as written.
We have a motion, I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? See none. Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Excuse me.
And I vote yes as well.
I make a motion to approve the executive session minutes of February 13th, 2019 not to be released.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? I see none. Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Any appointments or introductions, Mr. Tenzini?
I have none this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. For the next, all parties are here for the next topic.
There were, Mr. Chairman, while I'm checking on that, I would respectfully ask you act upon item C, the right of first refusal
Yes,
to the property at 7 Millstone Lane. I would repeat my concern of each time one of these comes before you. We continue to lose affordable units in the community, and I would encourage the CPC to consider granting to this body or establishing a housing trust, if that is the one and only manner in which to do it, sufficient funds to exercise the right of first refusal. Until that, we do not have sufficient funds to acquire these properties.
understood.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
My only concern is that the 90-day marketing period will commence on February 20th, and which was really, it just commenced, and it doesn't end until May. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, most of these have not come before us until the 90-day marketing period ended. And I'm a little uncomfortable approving something where the 90-day marketing period has not ended at this time.
okay.
I would prefer to see the 90-day marketing period end before this comes before this body.
Mr. Tenzini, we had this in the past where it was after the 90-day period, correct?
We've had them before the 90-day period
remember
ended. We've
that.
had them during. Certainly, if you'd like to consider tabling
I mean, we have
this.
to do what we've done previously, but I always thought it was closer to the 90-day ending, or the 90-day was ending. So like I said, if I could be wrong.
They've come in, they don't come in on a regular basis. Technically, they should come in before they even commence the open marketing period. But you can table it, and we'll do some research between now and your
Do you mind
your
doing
next
that?
meeting. No,
I-
not at
then
all. It's
I
easy
make a
enough.
motion to table this until further research is done.
Okay, I have a motion to table the right for first refusal for 7 Millstone Lane. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? I see none. Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I am so sorry, John.
No, you're good. It was me. I vote yes as well. I was just looking at something else. So we can put that on the next agenda?
Yep.
Thank you.
Was there a time for the show cause hearing?
6:30 PM or soon thereafter as the agenda permits, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Detective Smith is here to present on behalf of the department, and the license holder is here as well.
Okay, great. Call to order the show cause hearing for the Thirsty Turtle establishment. If you guys could come up here, just have a seat up here, would be great. Thank you.
Over here, or?
Right up front is fine. That's, so we get the speaker on you, so we can hear you talk, if that's okay.
Mr. Chairman, I will
Yes.
tell you that the detective does have a longstanding prior family commitment that will require him to leave at 7 PM.
Well, duly noted. Yeah, let's go with detective.
Yes, sir. So basically, in front of you, what you have, I believe, is a packet containing a narrative completed by myself. I believe you have several statements in there completed by individuals during the course of what started out as a liquor law violation. My involvement was just that, the request of the chief of police, an administrative investigation for a liquor law violation, as a result of information that he received and that I received of a fatal car accident in the town of Phillipston. There was some indication that the last drink that deceased party had was at the Thirsty Turtle. During our course of the investigation, I did speak with one individual that was drinking with that party at the bar. She did indicate that while at the bar, she did have a couple shots with him. She left the bar, he was still there. As for the other statements contained in there that you have, I believe they're voluntary statements on Phillipston letterhead and Templeton letterhead. Those were statements taken by Officer Malnati and Sergeant Chapman of the Phillipston Police.
And at this time, obviously, the Phillipston investigation is still ongoing, correct?
It was an ongoing investigation, yes.
And obviously, this is a criminal investigation, I would assume, on the Phillipston side, so, I mean, I'm sure this is gonna take some time working with the district attorney's office.
That would be a question I'd reserve for Chief Dodge or Sergeant Chapman.
Understood. Yes, sir. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Wish it was better
Yes,
circumstances.
exactly.
So, obviously, you heard the statement from the officer. I'm sure you got copies of the reports from the town of Templeton.
Honestly, we just got all the statements just 2 minutes ago. I didn't receive them until now.
Okay.
I haven't really had a chance to look over them properly, but I tried to read them real quick.
Okay.
But I did receive, I think, everything else besides the statements.
Okay, have you consulted with legal counsel at all?
I have not.
Okay. And what's your view so far on this matter?
Well, you know, like I said, a lot of this information I'm seeing for the first time. I have done a lot of research as to what happened as far as people I could talk to. I mean, obviously about the police, I can't go and, I don't know who was involved, and I can't interview everybody.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I did not wear my hearing aids, so could I please ask you
just speak
to
up a little
speak
bit.
up a little bit? I'm hard of hearing.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so, like I said, the people I've talked to, I haven't, this is all new to me, these statements, but I've done a little bit of research on my part. The facts, I don't know, what the facts are. Was Mr. Tui intoxicated. Has that been established? I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows. That being said, the laws clearly state that the tavern keeper does not owe a duty to refuse to serve liquor to an intoxicated person unless the tavern keeper knows or reasonably should have known the patron is intoxicated. So basically what that means is, from the training I've done, is it's not the bartender's job to know the person's blood alcohol content or if they're intoxicated. It's simply their job to judge by their behavior if they're too intoxicated to drink. And at that point, they cannot be served another drink. If they become intoxicated, appear to become intoxicated while they're drinking, and then ask for another drink, you say no. Up until that point, you're fine. If you serve a person that appears intoxicated, that's where you're breaking the law. According to everybody I've talked to, and I don't think there's any statement saying that Mr. Tui at any time appeared discernibly intoxicated. Everything I heard is he was sitting at the bar, talking normally. I have receipts that he had one beer and one shot. And like I said, you know, the negligence lies in serving alcohol to a person who is already showing discernible signs of intoxication. Now, there's no evidence that that had happened. I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's like I said, we do our best there. We watch people. We're constantly carding people. We're constantly watching people, constantly shutting people off. But somebody has to show signs that they're intoxicated, need to be shut off. You can't, you know, if the gentleman's just sitting there having a conversation, you know, if you don't know this, and it's not, the responsibility is not falling on us to know, you know, somebody's BAC. We're not having low breathalyzers. You know, that's what I have to say about that.
Okay,
If somebody can prove different, I mean, I don't think it can be done.
understood. Do you have anything to add?
No, just reiterate the fact that we are constantly carding people, always shutting people off. The bartenders know it's up to them. They have the power to shut someone off if they feel they need to be, and they do that quite frequently.
Okay.
I've even been in there before when people have been shut off and they've come to me and asked me, and I've said, no, the bartender has the absolute power, and they're always watching. And it's been stressed to them, and I feel like they followed protocol in this case.
All your bartenders serve safe certified?
Not all of them, I believe all but one.
Okay.
There was,
Oh, yeah, not ServSafe, I'm sorry, that's tips. ServSafe is for serving food.
Right, and tips. Serve safe and tips.
Yeah, well, ServSafe is just for the food.
Understood, tips, that's right,
Tips,
that's what I
yeah.
meant.
there was a question of the bartender working at night. I know when we had spoke, she was concerned that hers might have been expired. Is hers current, or is she
You
the
know,
questionable one?
I asked her about that, I haven't really seen her, I can find out.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions for either party?
I have to read through all this in order to make any kind of accurate decision. I can't just. It's still an ongoing investigation, you said though, correct?
On the Phillipston side,
So the
For
Templeton
Phillips.
involvement at this point is strictly administrative for a possible liquor law violation. That is the Templeton Police involvement at this point. As for any type of criminal, that is a question for Chief Dodge or Sergeant Chapman over in Phillipston.
I think it would be wise for us to review this and ask, are we able to ask Chief Dodge to come?
Well, I can certainly inquire of him the status of
The investigation?
his investigation.
Or any narratives that they
Reports which are
have?
referred to, and get you a status report on that. And if that's your wish, I would suggest that you table this matter pending my report back to you.
Is that anyone else's wish besides mine?
No, I would agree, I mean, because
I mean, I'd
again,
have to digest this.
right, we haven't had time, we just got them now. So
Exactly,
we haven't
so
read
did
any
I,
of
so did
the,
I.
It's
we
not
haven't
fair
read
to
any
you
of
if
this
we don't.
background,
It's,
so
I just got to,
understand.
I understand completely.
And I think that
I'm
if
in the
you
same boat.
have any statements, I'm sorry. if you have any statements, I mean, I think that it would be wise that we would see those as well in writing.
I do, I have a couple of things I would probably want to give to you.
Okay, will we be able to make copies of those for us
I
to
can-
review?
Yeah, I can give you these two, because I can make more. This other one I would
Well,
like to
we
give
could
you.
You
ask
can give them to
Holly
Holly
make
after.
copies. They have statements that they would like to submit.
Yeah, and I would suggest a rehearing on this matter at March 13, because there are numerous statements in here which the detective has not had an opportunity to point out by witnesses which do state that they felt the gentleman was impaired. So I would ask that you table this matter to an extended hearing on March 13.
Would Officer Smith be able to come back on that date? Is that acceptable to you?
I'm available.
Thank you very much. And would we be able to have a status report from Chief?
We can always have a status report,
Dodge.
absolutely.
At that time.
And the detective will, and you all will have more time to explore those.
So the only other thing, if the board's gonna have questions for any of the other officers that compiled statements,
Would we be able to submit those ahead of time?
it may be best to have them in front of you, because I can't speak to the statements they took, I can only speak
So
to the statements.
that would
I took.
be Officer Malnati and
Sergeant Chapman.
Sergeant Chapman. Okay, so he's actually from
Yeah, I know I have
Phillipston, so we would have to ask him if he would be
We'll
available.
work out some procedural, because the magistrate's
Okay,
hearing,
thank
you'd be
you,
able to
Detective
testify
Smith.
to these reports, so.
Right.
There's Officer Holden as well. There's a report in here from Officer Ed Holden. It's about 5-6 pages in. I, Officer Edward Holden of the Templeton Police Department, was on duty for the town of Templeton. There's one report from Ed. Hold on for just 1 minute, please.
I see that in there.
So he also filed a report. Do you see that, Detective Smith?
I mean, if these are sworn reports, correct? We don't really need the officers here.
Even in a magistrate's
We won't need, you don't need to hear, I mean, because what they write is what they write. I mean-
probable cause
But
hearing.
if we have questions for them, they need to be in front of us.
I mean, okay, I understand what you're trying to say, but again, it's, even, like you said, in a clerk magistrate's hearing, I mean, you know, let's look out some procedural things for this, because again,
We
this is one of our businesses in
Sure.
the community. I want to make sure things are done right, and let's,
I also believe that this is a serious offense, Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
and we are deciding the fate of the Thirsty Turtle at this point, whether or not we allow them to keep their license, or we revoke their license, or we suspend their license. This is serious for them.
it is.
So
Very
I
serious.
think that following all proper procedure and having people in front of us if need be, then they should be here.
Well taken.
If it is agreeable extending, I would respectfully suggest a motion.
I make a motion that
to
we extend the
recess this
hearing to
matter
March
until March
13th.
13th.
Okay, then recess it to March 13th. Do you have a second?
And I think that Mr. Arsenault had something that he wanted to say.
Yeah, I would just like to make sure I have all the same information that you guys have, because like I said, I didn't have any of these statements, and I don't know what the one you were just talking about there.
I have
don't know if
to, I need to refer that to the town administrator.
This, yeah. Okay, so, all right, so I have, now that I have these, I have everything.
This is everything.
Yep, all right, thanks.
Let's keep this simple. This is a copy of what we have given to the board, so there should be no confusion
Understood.
that you have everything the board
Thank
has.
you.
Okay, I have a motion to recess till this hearing till March 13th. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion second. Any other discussion concerning this case? I see none. Diane?
Can I just ask if we are getting statements from the Arsenals? If we are getting what they are, what
Yeah,
they have
We are.
before we leave this evening?
Yes,
Yes, I
Okay.
gave,
yes, we will.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yep.
So I vote yes.
Okay, Doug?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. I'll take a motion to get out of the hearing.
Motion to recess the hearing, or?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Excellent. A second? Second?
Oh, yes,
Okay, great. Diane?
I'm sorry, yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thanks a lot. I'll see you on March 13th.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
I think they did. Okay.
Thanks, Detective.
Holly, would it be possible to provide Chief Bennett with a copy of those?
Of these? Yeah, do you want me to email them?
Whatever's
Or
easiest.
you want me to just
to do.
copy them now for you?
Just my copy of my.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Detective Smith.
Enjoy your party.
So,
Okay, moving on to the sewer commissioner, is Mr. Moschetti. Come on up. How are you, sir? Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, I have something I'd like to read, a statement I'd like to read. to the
Okay.
board.
Will we receive a copy of this?
Yeah, I had Holly make one, I'm gonna give her one.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
I have to be on the agenda tonight as a courtesy to you. I know that you've been upset at our unwillingness to come to your meetings. What I am going to read is my opinion, developed since the last sewer commission meeting on February 11th. I have not discussed the collection issues with any board members since that meeting, so this is my opinion as chairperson. Beyond from what I'm about to read, I have nothing further to add tonight or until the next meeting of our sewer commission is to be held on March 4th. The Board of Sewer Commission agrees with the DOR letter and the audit recommendations to have the sewer collections done at Town Hall. I have said after the 2009 DOR report, an open meeting, that I agreed with recommendations as with other audits and current audits. The sewer department wants to work with the people at Town Hall to make this transfer of collections happen, but collections only. The memorandum we received February 11th is all about billing. I will not agree to any action that includes billing or the reduction in sewer department staff. Collections is a small fraction of what the clerical staff does, and any reduction in staff would have a bad effect on the services and operations of the sewer department, and I will not let this happen. I would also like to say that I take offense at the Board of Selectmen chairman making any mention of the sewer department trying to hide anything. We have nothing to hide. Anyone can come down and review the books, and according to multiple audits, no monies have ever been missing. The sewer department is willing to pay their fair costs for indirect services when and if the town hall begins collecting all sewer receipts. But I won't let this transition to become a power and money grab, which the Board of Sewer Commission feels it is, and that's what the memorandum amounts to. And that's all I have to say.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
why,
Hold on. Thank
why
you.
do you feel, Mr. Moschetti, that we would, this is a power and a money grab? Like, why would we do that?
Already stated, I'm not discussing anything else until our meeting
Oh,
on March 4th, which we have.
and I know that
which you
we've been
invited
invited to that, is that correct?
to. I mean, this is just a statement, it's my opinion as the board chairman, and that's all I'm going to say tonight.
Would
That's
you
it.
take offense if we asked for that meeting to be recorded
It's our meeting is always recorded.
on TV?
Nope,
Would you take offense if we asked for it to be recorded on TV?
yes,
Why?
I'm done. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Try to hold this together real quick, just because I'm trying to take all this in, because obviously, I mean, people take things offense in certain ways, and I understand that. And if people take things, what I say, out of context or wrong, then I can't help that. But I grew up in a world of perceptions, reality. And as a sewer user, when I pay my sewer bill, and if I feel that why people dig their heels in the sand for certain reasons is, I'm not saying they're trying to hide nothing, I said that pretty clear. I'm not saying that, I'm not saying they're trying to hide anything. What I'm trying to say is perception's reality, and the fact of the matter is if you keep, say one thing but do another, it doesn't work. And I'm glad he came and said his
Thank him
two
for coming.
cents. I really do appreciate that, and obviously, we'll talk more, because I know, I'd like to be at that meeting with the sewer commissioners. I don't want to have a full board there, but, if another member would like to join me, that would be fantastic, and I don't understand why it can't be televised. That doesn't make any sense to me either,
Well,
but,
I asked if he would take offense, and he said yes, so, if you don't, March 4th is I have down as a budget workshop, John. So we're not going to be able to go to that meeting.
And I'm out of town next week.
March 9th is our budget workshop Saturday.
right.
So why do I have it on a Monday? Did I just put it in my calendar
I'm
wrong?
afraid I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, so we
That's right.
could go to that meeting?
We could.
So if you don't mind,
I will tell you, I will not be able to be there, but it doesn't mean I'm the only voice on this matter.
No, it's okay.
is it all right if I go with
Of
Chairman
course, yep.
Kaplis?
Yeah, I think
Do
my
you mind
report
if I go with you, Mr.
speaks for
Kaplis?
itself.
I think that would be fantastic.
Okay, so
And I
I'll
will,
put that, and what time is their meeting at? Are they earlier than ours?
I think they're at 6, correct?
No, I believe they start at 4, but we can check that in the morning for you.
4
I
o'clock.
normally could
Oh,
make
my
that
Lord.
time.
I
Could
can
you
go.
make
I-
that
yep,
time? 'Cause
I
so
could.
could we just,
I can meet you
Okay,
there at
so-
4.
well, they've invited us, and we have complained that they have not come to our meetings, so we should do them the courtesy of going to their meeting.
Absolutely.
So we can't complain about one thing and then not do it.
Right.
So I will go with you.
Sounds good.
And you will be out of town that week. Will you be at the budget workshop on the 9th?
Yes, I'll be back Saturday.
Okay, so we don't have, I also have a budget workshop on the 6th. I must have done this like at some point when,
No, we do have them posted for tentative.
and yet I don't have it on the 9th.
The
So
final-
it might have been I didn't
There may have been
fix it.
some tentative dates
Okay.
and then final dates.
Okay, so I'm
but
gonna have to
the
fix it based
schedule
on
is
what's in
your
here.
book, yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. So I will attend that meeting with you and I will look it up online.
Fantastic. I'm gonna enjoy myself. It's gonna be a
So
fantastic
I
meeting.
also, Mr.
Chance, are you
Chairman,
gonna
would
be
like
there? Thank you, sir.
to ask if we could take number 6 out of order because it will be a quick thing before Mr. Terenzini presents his budget and legislative packet.
Understood.
Do you mind if we do
nope.
that?
No, I don't mind. Northwester County Drug Task Force contract?
Yeah, so I had asked for it to be looked into as far as self-renewing language, and I got my answer on section 8.1. This agreement shall remain in effect until terminated means that that's how we would get out of the contract, is if we put it in writing.
Right.
So, I would like to make a motion to, I move to approve the North Worcester County Drug Task Force contract
Okay. I have a motion.
as written,
Might I ask for the authority to sign that only because this
to
gentleman
be
is
signed by
literally
the.
walking around with the page with all of the
Oh,
signatures.
okay. So to be signed by, the town administrator. Yes.
And I will second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I see none. Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Okay, we're gonna go into the FY20 budget and legislative packet.
So tonight's a little break in tradition. I hope it's not a bad omen. It is the first time in 20-plus years I forgot my money ties with which to present the budget. But we'll proceed anyways. Basically, as some of you have seen this before, I'm afraid it'll be a little bit redundant, but I don't look a lot at what the department spent last year. I ask them each year to try to look at their budgets and justify what they need from the ground up. The focus this year, there's not a lot of change in it, not a lot of major initiatives, because I think that we've made some good progress. We want to concentrate on continual improvement on those changes to date. And this year, we had, for the first time, your full goal setting that came out of your retreat. The budget is $17,164,201. About a little over $9,000,006 is in the town's general fund, and $7,140,000 and some change is in Monty Tech and the Narragansett Regional School District base. Why do I call it the base? Because it requires a $990,000 override or $1.50 per thousand to support all of their needs. They have modified the base budget so that we were not making the entire minimum contribution. They were unwilling to come down to the zero increase that we'd asked of them. The budget can accept the $100,000 that you wanted to add the police officer, but I do need to point out you will have to cut the reserve to do that, and I have got to caution you to have a serious conversation about sustainability of that new position. On our major revenues, we're up a little bit, about just right around $250,000 on our permissible 2.5% increase. We have projected new growth at 65,000. We actually expect it'll be substantially more, but we are trying to keep all those numbers as conservative as possible. There's a lovely acronym for you, UGA. Unrestricted General Government Aid. That's the state aid that gives us, that isn't targeted to a program. It's not the pilot money, it's not veterans reimbursements, it's not the library. That's unrestricted. Now, unfortunately, that was offset. The House One has $35,000 less than the current fiscal year in the pilot. That's what the state pays us for taking land off of the local tax rolls. The MART transportation, the DOR was not at all happy with the amount of money that we were projecting for reimbursements on the MART transport program. We think the maximum we can get by them this year is around $60,000, even though we anticipate a little over around $80,000. So we've had to trim our sales there a bit. And in preparation for next year, Narragansett Regional School District will do all of its snow removal in fiscal '21. They pay us $25,000 a year. So we brought that down to $17,500. That is the amount that we project would be the indirect cost for the sewer department paying us for doing their collection. So that would be flat going into '21. Now, where are the main cost drivers? Well, we're negotiating 3 collective bargaining agreements. We have COLA, merit pays for our regular employees, and we have some contractual agreements, police chief and others, already in place. As you know, we've talked with you numerous times about what our pay rates are in comparison to the other communities and our need to close that gap given our inability to fill a number of key positions. Worcester Regional Retirement System, health insurance up $60,000, electricity another $80,000 this year, and that extra day of payroll a little over $10,000. Do remember, over the next 3 years, your budget will go up about $60,000, even if everything else stayed constant, because the light department is no longer giving us electricity as part of the pilot, informal pilot that we have with them. We have to pay all that operating cost, and we have 3 more days of payroll to absorb to get to that 53rd week. Also in this budget is about $75,000 above and beyond the debt service, so that when we go to convert some of those bands to those general obligation monies, we have about $75,000 to help round out and smooth out that next tranche of borrowing. One potential safety valve is not many dollars, the retiree dental insurance, we just bring it to your attention. After that, there really is not what I would consider a safe cut within the budget without reducing services or further causing us to have to further restructure how we do that. Now, if savings are identified, again, in this year's budget, there is a sheet of where we would recommend you restore in order of some priorities. Or if savings are identified, perhaps we can do some additional capital. I think when you see that, Doug, it's pretty healthy. It's a little bit above where we were because we had some good luck and some other things happen. You know, lots of folks look at the budget as just dollars and cents. I don't. I really think it's the single biggest policy decision you make every year. It speaks to the services you'll deliver, how you will organize yourself to do that, and the resources that you will allocate to each of those services. So, you know, lots of folks just kind of look at the numbers, and I guess I get a little bit more geekier over on the policy side of things. And it's based upon those service priorities and our constant, every year, even when there's a vacancy, constantly working at the workflow and the organizational structure. So what are the major initiatives this year? We've got a set aside for those 3 collective bargaining agreements. In the IT, we've had, you know, we bring in a firm when we have a project, as we did with Rudder and the conversion to the Office 365. We have Montalbano, and then we have Doug. I don't know, you couldn't do it without, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up anyone's tailpipe here, but truly, he has been our IT department for the 3 years I've been here. We really need to beef that up a little bit. We need to have someone who's paying attention to the firewall, paying attention to the backups, getting antivirus on every desktop, managing those. And so this is a number that we think we can grow into. On the town clerk, one of your goals was to try to increase voter participation in the annual town meeting, the fall town meeting, and the elections. One of the suggestions that came out of the workshop that we had here, I don't know, maybe 4, 5, 6 weeks ago was, you know, mailers, postcards. We'll speak to that a little bit more in the budget process. Again, I would say to you, if this is something you think you're interested in, please think long and hard about the sustainability, because it doesn't do anyone any good to pick up this service, even though it's only $2,500, you know, for the year, and then you have to each year wondering, you know, is that one on the chopping block? We have capital for the town clerk, replacing several voting machines. These things are now out of warranty. They're no longer supported. Having one fail would not be a good thing to happen at all. The server here has some issues. The firewall is, I believe, we need to install a new server and clean up everything at the DPW. That server down there is no longer backing up. We want to bring it up here. Doug and I have come up with a plan where we would bring it up and basically host it on the server here in simplest terms, and then add Council on Aging in the other, around $32.5 for capital on some of that. New truck at Highway. The salt shed, Bob will speak to you about that. Currently, we use sand, as much clay as it is sand, I'm afraid.
Right.
From the town's pit. That pit is played out. Bob will speak to you. You'll find memo in your book. We need storage facilities for this. Not quite as large as I'd like or as tall or anything else, but it'll work. It'll hold a full storm's worth, and he can get that backfilled when that salt is burnt down. A refurbished street sweeper. Ours is, I think, 18 plus years old and was actually a hand-me-down from Winchendon that we're repairing with parts from another hand-me-down.
Mm-hmm.
This would hold us for a number of years, and if we convert to salt, it'll actually be extend the lifespan of this machine dramatically. Think of what this does. You know, think of how you fix clean up wood for finishes, you clean up drywall, you use sandpaper. This thing goes around and cleans up the sand. The less sand, longer it'll last, easier to maintain. Hot box, what is that? Well, that Bob spoke to you about that during your chapter 90. This, you actually put your materials, your asphalt, in this. It's kept hot, it lasts a couple days, you aren't worrying about trying to get it all used up in one day. Also, reclaimed materials can go in this. They get superheated and then they can be used as patch. You don't use base material to patch top course, but you do have that. And he thinks that that will have some substantial savings and improve workflows quite a bit. The new truck lift, the one that we have, won't pass inspection come March or April or May. Seems silly, one of the things we're gonna talk to you about is OSHA. And we talked with the guys down there about safety and things that they thought would be helpful. And one of their suggestions, which Bob and I thought made some sense, it's a simple set of rolling stairs, which lets them get up alongside the trucks, lets them on the trucks. Just gonna make it easier and safer for them to work on things at a fairly lower cost. Pavement saw, Bob spoke to you about that, he'll speak. Chipper, ours is pretty much bit the dust. MS4, this is a stormwater regulation. If we showed you the map, there's a couple hundred acres maybe that are of town that are in it maybe. The corner of town that butts up against Gardner, a couple hundred acres, is in the MS4 catchment area, which means we have to develop a MS4 plan and then implement it for the entire town of Templeton. We made what I would call at best a shell filing last July. When?
Notice of intent was filed.
Just to try to keep ourselves legal. It's filed. And we need to do more by technically this July 1, but we'll just have to morph that into next year. Also, our street signs currently do not conform to the manual and uniform traffic control devices in terms of their size, in terms of their lettering, in terms of their reflectivity. This is a close to 15-year-old standard now. It would cost $85,000 to do it all at once. So we would just like to get started and try to pick away at it every year. This is something that if you don't intend to do it, or you think it would be the first on the chopping block, we're better off to not start it. But that would bring us into compliance over time with this, as I said, this 15-year-old regulation. Town Hall, the back door, if you've been to other buildings, you'll notice you're supposed to have a panel that you can hit. Those doors would swing open, coming in, coming out. They have electric motors on them. Ours don't. This has been the lowest cost way we could sort out to try to achieve that compliance. We've got quite a bit of deferred maintenance. I think Julie's spoken to you about her visit to the highway office. And take a drive by, and the exterior of the office, you'll notice rotted soffit, rotted casing. The lower part of the T111 siding's basically blowing apart. We really need to address these before they get beyond repair. Buildings and grounds, some vehicles, new security cameras here at Town Hall, which will be monitored from the police station. These are Wi-Fi security cams. They watch the buildings. We don't have to have alarms, that kind of thing. They're up on the dispatch monitors to be viewed. A little bit of upfront cost, but in the long haul, the lowest cost way to do this. And we don't have to wait for an alarm company to call the police station.
Right.
The fire service, new ambulance with what's called a load system. If the back of the door is open, the stretcher goes into it, it's actually picked up and physically, equipment-wise, lifted and pulled in to the ambulance, and then modifying the existing ambulance to do the same, replacing the last of the SCBA tanks, and this is another regulation that's been in effect for a long time. You'll notice the issue here with the fire and rescue trucks is not the trucks. You'll notice to the left, around 11 o'clock, draping down towards 5 o'clock, if you were looking at this on a watch, that large 6-inch hose. These ambulances, fire trucks, are in buildings that are also occupied by people. Every one of them is supposed to have an exhaust system. We can't afford to do them all at once. The first building would be the main building on School Street, which is the one that's occupied with the administrative staff, the chief, and the paramedics. And then next year, we would move on to the next two. Again, as with the signs, as with the postcards, if it's something we're not gonna see all the way through, frankly, it's just as bad to do one as to not do them all over time. Public safety, new police vehicle, the deferred fingerprint system. One of the things that came out of your workshop was a desire for better speed enforcement, particularly in the neighborhoods. So this piece that you see here, there's a bracket that goes on any speed control or traffic control device in town. You can leave them there, you can buy more brackets, you can move the brackets. This device then mounts on that bracket and locks to it. And it does more than tell you what your speed is. It'll record the number of vehicles, it'll record all those speeds, it records the time of day. So in addition to being a bit of a reminder to folks, it also gives us the data that tells us the best time of day to patrol. And it also gives us the data that when somebody comes in and says, hey, they're going, whatever, 43 through there, we can look at the records and say, geez, sorry, but they really aren't. Or, yeah, they are. And so that you download into a computer and you can get all that turned out of that.
You know what that's missing is a camera, so you can take pictures of the license plate to send bills to those speeding residents.
Well, they have those in the UK, and when I went to university, and the thing that I found interesting was they always had the camera sign ahead of where the camera was gonna be, and I'm thinking like, okay, what's the point of this?
Right.
And once you know it's there, I mean.
Then you slow down.
Sewer department has to pick up its debt for Pleasant Street Pump Station. The city of Gardner has started to charge our share of the upgrade.
Have they started that?
That's for next fiscal year is my understanding.
Okay. And we got the number on that, right?
Well, we have a number, I don't have the backup for it, but that's a discussion. I'm certainly hoping that the that sewer department will engage in during the budget process.
Understood. Thank you.
I continue to have high hopes there. Cable, I put in everything that they asked for, but I really do have to suggest that you have a further vetting of that. I'm very fearful they will burn through the cash quickly, too quickly. Couple of warrant articles of note: sale of the town-owned lands to the state of Massachusetts that you had at your January workshop. We have the hoped-for sale of Baldwinville School. Proposals due March 11. In addition, once Adam thinks has a breather tomorrow at noon, he starts on the memo of Plan B and Plan C for Baldwinville School, which would consist of auctioning or real estate broker. We'll have that before you as well. And then the bylaw updates and codification. We have received virtually no comments. Those are back up on the web. We'll try to keep them in front of people. Once we have your thoughts on those as a result of the workshop, we'll regroup with town council and then have him back out here in April for another public meeting. And I think everything that's in your books goes up on the web Monday, I think we thought it would be. Tomorrow? Okay, tomorrow.
Excellent.
Not town meeting, can be done by this body, adopt Mass General Law, Chapter 53, Section 18B. There's a report in there, you'll find it in the town clerk's section because it ties into that $2,500. This is one that allows you to prepare and disseminate a voter's information guide. If you think of that red one that you usually get from the Secretary of State's office before every state election that has ballot questions. This is similar to that. We have encouraged the superintendent and the school committee to explore their ability to disseminate the material. They can't adopt it themselves and prepare it themselves
Right.
under the statute, but they could adopt that. I think it's important that the advisory committee initially requested $75,000 for the reserve. We had some exchanges, they brought that to 50 after the schools hit us. I did bring it down to around 45. But we've laid out in there a memo that would be about 0.75% of a prior, which this year would have been somewhere on the $50,000 range, right around where they were. I think the important thing here is to agree what that's gonna be, and then get it into the financial management policy. I do think it may be aspirational for a while, as with, meeting snow and ice. Every year we try to make some growth towards it. So I would look forward to a conversation. And in that memo, when I said I would try to get to 50, I did say that the schools might impact that a tad. And so we're about, we're above and below where each one of us wants to be, but the important thing to me is this discussion and then agreeing a formula for the future that we can put the issue behind us and then figure out how to fund it over time. There's some things we didn't get in here. Let's see now. The wish list, basically $600,000 out of capital for highway, not fundable. Another $70,000 at buildings and grounds, again, insufficient funding to do it all. Police department, $40,000. The generator they have will deal with dispatch. It won't deal with the whole building. But when you look at the capital, you may come to a different balance than I did and what I recommended. Also, we have, when we get it, the $250K of state money. Fire and EMS, they had some software they wanted. It wasn't expensive, but we trimmed it because I think we can get it into, we have $30,000 that hasn't landed in the bank yet, but we have the signed contract for that study funded by the Community Compact for us and for Phillipston. And we're going to put in there an allowance that after the consultant is all done and has recommended certain software, I'm gonna put in up to $5,000 where they would purchase the software, have it installed and train us. And I'm pretty confident that we can get that done within that $30,000. The emergency managed capital, 3/4 ton pickup truck, 30 plus or minus 1,000. I had to look at, the use it was gonna get, the storage, so we've got some other things that are happening, and you'll find a memo in there about, this will go here, then this goes here. And again, it's a lack of resources. Development services, they had some software that they wanted, they thought would help improve their inspections. We zeroed that out and hope to be in front of you within 4 weeks for a second Community Compact grant, and we would try to position ourselves to get that software through that next Community Compact grant. The sewer department submitted a request for a bylaw that would vest them with essentially complete and total independence. You'll see my editorial comment. I'll leave it at that. Challenges for 2020 and beyond, the education. That budget's gonna go up 4% next year, and the state funding will go up low 5 digits. It's a challenge, and it's something that everyone's got to, I think, not just lament and tub thump about at budget time, but I would encourage the board and the school district to just become much more active. I'm not suggesting that you sue the way Leicester had to and 9 other communities. That at least got the progress that was made, but it's something that has to be concentrated upon. Massachusetts OSHA, what does that mean? Everybody knows what OSHA is. Not everybody knows it didn't apply to Massachusetts municipalities until February 1st of this year. We have had the gentleman from the state come out. He gave a pretty good training session. It wasn't attended by all of our departments. All of those under our direct control were attended. But it is something we're gonna have to spend some serious time thinking about, looking at the costs of complying with. One is, a voluntary audit, which we're thinking about taking on, because at least then there's a little bit of self-defense. Come on, guys, we're trying to be good. We called you in, but those still come up with lengthy lists often that you have to address.
Which departments didn't show for that meeting?
In that instance, it was the sewer department.
Understood. Thank you.
The indirect cost recovery, I was very hopeful and pleased to hear the commissioners say that they are prepared to pay their indirect costs. We support them with assessing, with treasurer collector, with the accountant, and I think that over the coming year, this goes back to the '09 DOR report as well, was that the town needed to calculate the costs that the taxpayer provide the utilities, and those utilities should pay those to the town. Being able to have a conversation and recover those costs would be a great boon to the bottom line. And finally, infrastructure, the bridge closed, sign being up kind of lost the impact of that, but in addition to the pavement management system, which spoke to the need to be investing a minimum of $1 million a year.
1.6.
I stand corrected, you're right. We now have one bridge that's been closed completely, Stone Bridge.
Yep.
A second bridge that we've had to narrow the lanes on.
To 18 feet.
Yeah, essentially a one-way pattern at this point. And there will be more. And these bridges take multiple years and can take many, many dollars, from the upper 6 figures to low 7 figures. And there are bridges. We own them. Sometimes you can get a state grant, but in general, they are ours. And it's not just a traffic problem for passengers, but in this particular case, if we were to lose it, it's an economic development issue.
Yeah, it's impacting the paper mill.
So the other challenge that I wanted to come back to is this chart that comes out of the 2018 actuarial report for the Worcester Regional Retirement System. That is their accrued liabilities that they've been building up. As you know, that was a pay-as-you-go system for many years. And a number of years ago, early 2000, they decided that we needed to find a way to get all of these liabilities properly funded. So they set out and decided that all retirement systems across the state needed to fully fund their accrued liabilities by 2035. If you've seen the television ad, I think it's Range Rover that goes up the steps, the dragon steps there in China. That's what this chart makes me think of, because that's how steep it is. That's steeper than some ski jumps I've been on many, many moons ago. So what will happen is between now, 2020, you can see where it is this year, and 2035, the Worcester Regional Retirement System has to pay in, as opposed to 50 million bucks a year, close to that 250. So your assessment's gonna keep going up every year. Now, the only good news in this is if you can get to that point in 2035, you will see that it then drops like a stone, and your assessment will probably drop on the order of 60 plus or minus %. And for anybody that is in office at that point in time, they're gonna wipe the sweat off their brow and say, isn't this great, now that we can go spend A, B, and C. What you really need to do, and to try to get people trained to think, is that when that happens, now you take that delta and you fund the OPEB liability.
Right.
That's how you get to funding your OPEB liability. So you keep putting some away each year, so the auditors see that you know it's there, but that becomes your plan. Your annual free cash and the delta in 2035, although you all keep crossing your fingers and hope the state will extend that out to 2050 or 2060 so that the curve flattens out. So we did complete that study on the sewer receivables this couple weeks ago. And everybody has their books. It's the same as last year. You will find absolutely way more than you ever wanted to know about, cut saws and everything else in there. If there are questions that people have during the course of looking at their books, last year and the year before, we used close to 14 hours of review time. You're trying to do it this year in a Saturday and one evening. If there are questions that you see as you're going through the books, if you can get them to us so we can get you your answer, that will help make that day go a lot faster. We'll bring lunch in here. We'll do the same as we did last year, set the tables up this way. And that's our story for this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much for your time and efforts, I appreciate it. Adam, did you put those slides together? Good pictures, by the way, good pictures.
So, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I have some commentary.
sure,
So this is not a budget I can support.
okay.
I already know that off the bat. We told the school on at least 3 separate occasions that we would not give them additional funding. We also said at this table, as a board, that we wanted an additional police officer, and that was the one thing that we asked for, including in our goal setting. I do not want the police officer coming out of goal setting, out of overlay, because that is not sustainable. We did not give the school, I will not speak for the rest of you, I did not give the school lip service. So I cannot support this budget. I want the monies to come from the school funding, $100,000, and they can have whatever is left over. I did not, 3 times, we said last year, 1 time on TV, that they would have to ask for their money in an override, and that is what I want. End of story. So I can open the book and I can look at everybody's budget, but it is not a budget I can support.
Okay. I appreciate your insight. And as Mr. Tanzini stated, the new police officer is gonna be about $100,000 a
Yep.
year with
But
sustainability.
we already knew that.
We did. We
But the
did.
school can ask for all that money in an override like we told them.
Yeah, well, I understand that, but again, it's the burden of this board to enhance the override, to perform the override, to acknowledge the override. And what's the override gonna be? I mean, right now, it's at $1.50 a thousand. Is that correct? Right,
That's
so,
what their numbers would call.
and $1.50 a
yes.
thousand would give them about, what, $900,000 of dollars?
990 roughly.
And another 100,000 would be what?
$1.60, $1.65, 75?
And that's what we told them that they had to do, and why did we give them lip service?
Because then again, the burden of the taxpayer will burden the entire $1.65, 75 per
Okay.
thousand.
So let me explain
okay.
that every single shift that we put a police officer out there alone,
Yep.
we put them at risk. We knowingly and willingly put a police officer at risk. And if something happens to him, we're gonna look at their wife or their husband and say, I'm sorry. Do you honestly think that's gonna fly, Mr. Chairman?
Probably not. Probably not.
Probably not, it's not. We knowingly and willingly put a liability on this town. On this town, and it is our job to stop that liability, but we're not doing that.
I understand you, I
I
understand.
asked for one thing in this budget, and that was a police officer, and since I became a selectman on this board, that is all I have asked for. I was told that I could have it. And it's not in this budget, and it is in this budget, but it's not sustainable, so there is no point in having it in this budget. I will not take it from overlay.
And again, it's about sustainability, so, I mean, we can find it for this
There,
year.
there is no sustainability by
Right.
taking it from overlay. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous, so I want it taken out of there. But I agreed to fight for a police officer, and that is what I want. And we told the school no additional funding. So whatever we're giving them, based on the 2.5%, I want $100,000 to take it from that, and they can they can have the rest. Maybe they can make a cut. I'm not saying that their budget is not justified. It is. I watched their entire presentation, and it is. But I am not looking at a police officer's husband or wife and saying, I'm sorry, we knowingly and willingly put your sergeant or your lieutenant or your officer on duty alone and something happened, and we willingly and knowingly did that for the last 10 years. I'm sorry, Mr. or Mrs. I'm sorry. That is not flying with me any longer.
I can take
I'm
it,
very passionate about
I
this.
can see-
Last
I
year, there
can
were
feel
90
that.
domestic calls, the most volatile call a police officer can go on,
Mm-hmm.
and we sent them out there alone. Alone.
yep, you're absolutely right. So
I am
how- So how do we
absolutely right.
get from point A to point B? Because again, it's not just about this year.
It would be sustainable because the school would get override funds next year.
So, okay, this is where it
You
comes
don't
down
need to
to.
explain basic 101 budgetary to me.
I'm not gonna
But
explain
it's
anything
not
to you.
sustainable in the overlay, so
I'm-
we might as well refix the budget.
I'm not gonna explain anything. All I'm gonna say is this. It's not just about, it is about sustainability. It is about a police officer. I understand all that. It's also about, we're short 2 firefighter paramedics. We're short them too. And those guys go out and save people's lives just like police officers do. And what gives,
So I'm
what gives
sorry
one
to the
more than
town
the
of
other?
Templeton
I'm
that
not
we
done
had an
yet, ma'am.
override
I'm not done.
last year
I'm not
and
done
it
yet.
wasn't sustainable.
I'm not done yet. Let me finish, please. I'm not done. So, this year, we're looking at about $1.50. If we agree that it goes up because of the police officer, it goes to $1.65 per thousand. Well, next year, because Worcester State Retirement's gonna go up probably what, about 8%? There's gonna be the collective bargaining for the teachers' union gets a 2% raise next year. So you keep that all into effect. So if they're not asking for 800,000, maybe 900,000 of dollars more next year than this year, guaranteed. So now what happens, I won't be on the board, but whoever my predecessor is gonna be sitting here and thinking, okay, so we have this, we have that. Now we funded the school, we did an override, the override passed, great. $1.50, $1.65 per thousand, that's awesome. Great job to the taxpayers of the town, because again, people always say, well, how come it's always on the burden of the taxpayers? Well, unfortunately, it's our village, it's always gonna fall on the burden of our taxpayers. Well, how come there's no industry here? Well, we do have industry here. We have over 375 businesses in town. Are they something conglomerate like a marijuana dispensary where we're getting 3%? Is it something like a Walmart where we're getting dollars? Is it something like, a Seals that we're getting dollars in return, not just property tax in return? No. But you know what? We do have business. We do have people that want to live here. And again, I'll be glad to pay $1.50. I'll be glad to pay $2 more a thousand. But that's just me. But we also have to think about the individuals that are on fixed incomes that are out there. And again, we've already burned them last year for an override. The school is going to burn them this year that we have to
We
support.
didn't burn them, they voted.
They
Please do
did.
not use that language.
Okay,
We did
you're
not
right.
burn them.
Well, I mean, they voted for it. You're right. They did. They voted for it. The people that came to the ballot box voted for it. We have a lot of things. We have a lot of moving pieces in town. We have a new fire truck coming into town. New ambulance committee is being staged right now for new ambulance. We got two new pieces of equipment for the highway department. Obviously, they need more based on the demonstration that was just done tonight. And you're right, we need another cop. I'm not gonna deny the fact that we don't, but where's the money come from? So we tell the school, well, your override has to be more money, to accommodate the town's police officer for this year. And then how is it gonna be sustained next year? And then the next 5 years? And that would be a good snapshot too, Dick, to let the advisory committee give them the task to say, okay, this is what we think we should do. What your committee comes to the table and says, okay, how do you feel, or how do you recommend that
That
we?
is their job.
It is their job. How do you recommend that we fund this, and where do we fund it from, and who do we take from to fund it?
So,
So I'm not disagreeing with you, Diane, not at all, not in the least. I've been on your side the entire time, but the police officer. But again, when we're looking at the entire smorgasbord here of the community, how are we gonna, accommodate all departments?
every year,
Mhm.
Chief Bennett, since he's become chief,
Mhm.
has said to each department, no, you can have that money. No, you can have that money. So maybe it's time that the other department heads say to the chief, no, you can have this money. Maybe they each have to look at their budget and say, no, I really don't need that.
That's definitely something that's possible. I mean,
It is
yeah,
possible.
absolutely. I mean, but again, I don't wanna go after, I don't wanna have an override that's gonna be more than $1.50. That's just my personal opinion, but I mean, obviously, I will
Well,
support,
then we just gave the school lip service, and that's not what I did. We said to them, no additional funding, no additional funding, no additional funding, and we said, oh, here's your money.
well, we gave them what was the money that we gave them?
Can I just say?
Sure.
We, the board, has done nothing yet.
Right?
Right,
This is.
But we're doing it.
we're just talking about it.
I'm
Yep.
just saying that I cannot support this budget.
You
I'm
all
not
have,
speaking for them. I'm speaking for myself.
you all haven't done it yet. This is my recommended budget.
I understand that.
I propose you dispose, and let me just speak to a couple of things that I tried to balance. First is they're not gonna take the zero. That was pretty apparent. They're not gonna do it. Second, they don't want an override that would be a blend of some of their stuff and something for us, and they understand the danger of going above $1.50. Now, I
This
have
is
to.
a partnership.
I have to balance that reality, because if you can't strike an agreement of some fashion with them, they own the nuclear option. The nuclear option's the district agreement. They're gonna get what they ask for. And not brokering a deal, whether it's Brexit or anything else, a bad deal is better than no deal, because you will lose, in my opinion. So the overlay. I did look very hard at how to try to do that, and I don't see a way to do it within the original budget. So let's speak to the overlay. Until I got here, nobody even knew what the overlay looked like at the point of adopting the budget. Y'all did it in the fall. We started a practice of telling you where we thought you should start from, because it provides the safety valve. And we told you a 2.5% start in that book, not this one, is a good place to be when you're at this point in the budget process. Because if something goes wrong, as long as you don't go below 1.5%, that's that safety valve. And if you'll remember, last year, in order to keep the override from being bigger, and in order to keep from cutting services, we took half in the override for the schools, and we took $100,000 out of the overlay, because it kept us within that 1.5% range. I certainly understand Selectwoman Brooks' disappointment. I have been treated to that over the last few days. She's very passionate about this, and you'll need to balance it out. But at the end of the day, it is balance. And I do have to respectfully encourage you to think about sustainability, because you can't sustain this budget it's gonna be a struggle to sustain it in the near term, let alone in the long term.
And obviously, what happens if the override doesn't pass?
Well, that's something you need to work through over the next number of weeks as well, because if it doesn't pass, and they don't shear it off, so in one community, if the override didn't pass, it was clear what they were gonna shear off and not do. But I do think that in general, this is a good starting point for the discussions. We'll, now that you have our recommendation, we will of course do whatever comes at your direction.
As Dr. Casavant, have you expressed any concern with him as far as making a dual budget, one with no override, one with the override, to see where those budgetary responses are between the two?
Well, I think that truly, we had the meeting there, we spent some time, a number of conversations last week. I think that we're just getting started, and that's gonna have to evolve. Because if the board is not going to support an override for the school committee, then it all becomes academic.
Okay. And obviously, I know that the advisory committee had Dr. Casavant in front of them last week. And I got a chance to, he pretty much did the same presentation that he did to us at the joint board.
And I just want to reinforce for the public that half of this, roughly, is the cost of simply opening the new school.
Okay. And then people are gonna be like, people wonder why. Well, I mean, it's not just, what I think he meant was it 700,000 for the opening of the new school, something along those lines?
I don't recall the number,
It
but
was a
it's,
little less than $500,000 to open the new school.
With all the
When
utilities?
in his budget presentation, like 489,
No,
if I remember correctly.
yeah, I think she's right.
I'm talking the utilities piece, though.
The utilities were
700.
200,000 for electricity and
I'll look at the book.
70-something for oil.
Okay, I'll have to look at that.
I think it's, if
Do
it
you
was
think-
part of his presentation.
It's in here?
It's in your budget
Okay,
book.
I'll take a peek at that, because
So,
again, people don't realize that this town had 3 schools.
Or maybe it was 200,000 for oil and 70,000. I might have those mixed up.
Well, there was 3 schools in this community. We had Templeton Center, East Templeton that we're at now, and Baldwinville. And then if you look at the numbers, that sewer, water, and electric for each of the buildings, it was a lot of money.
Well, everybody can look and watch his presentation online, which is, I already said, his budget is justified, and I did not say that I would not support an override,
what I'm-
just not the override that they're asking for.
What I'm saying is this, that if you have 3 schools and you pay in lights, water, and sewer for 3 separate buildings, on average, it's about $300,000 per building, say, just give or take. So now you're at $900,000 with 3 buildings in play. Now this town's down from 3 buildings to 1 solid building that's energy efficient, et cetera, and now you're down to, say, $500,000. So you're actually the town's actually saving money, because the other, Baldwinville will be closed, that school will no longer be open, and obviously the new school will be standing
Well,
on
the
its 2 feet.
$500,000 definitely wasn't just for utilities. It was not.
I'll take a peek at
Utilities
it.
were cheaper than that.
I'll take a peek. I mean, because again, there was a lot of changes. I mean, the new staffing, the principal, vice principal, the
They
different
were also
teachers.
cited in an audit for not having
Yep.
certain things.
Yep, the CPI went in place because of the
Again, their
special
budget is
special needs.
warranted.
The
Absolutely.
only good news is this is probably an easier budget year than next year.
Yes. Well, next year's. I mean, that's that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of next year.
It'll obviously be the board's decisions. We did our best to get everybody to where they wanted to be. And the department heads will make their presentations, and I know the board will be thoughtful, and hopefully everybody can coalesce around some package of something. It may not be this. The important thing is that it be a package everyone's.
Now, you're gonna
Agreed
provide us
upon.
with a sheet to identify, like, if you take it from here, and it's gotta go here, so you have some type of, ability to track that if we
I write
do?
all over my book.
Yeah, we have, let's see your package, your book for a moment, please. We just have a sample in here. We'll do it the same as we did last year.
If you take it from one, we need a backfill.
And we have a restore sheet.
Adam, you might want to give me about 5 blank copies.
It's page 19. If you want the Excel spreadsheet, we can give you that. There are 3 pages we do try to protect, but page 19 simply shows you if you cut and add what your running tally will be. You start with a modest surplus. That's just a sample, but that's the same format as last year. If you
Understood.
if you'd like us to use a different format, we
No,
can
that's-
certainly
nope,
develop
I don't
one.
want, nope, that's perfect. That's perfect, and that's great.
For now, I just want to digest.
And obviously, the advisory committee would have the same,
They have the same books.
same books, so same recommendations to them as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I thank you,
Everything's-
Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to
everything's the
speak.
same.
Oh, absolutely. Well said, well spoken. And thank you, Mr. Tanzini and Adam. The books look fantastic, by the way. You did a good job.
Well, Holly's,
Oh, Holly, you too. I mean,
Involved as well.
'cause obviously you, instrumental. I appreciate it. And thanks for the help today too with the report. I appreciate that. Okay, is there any board staff member comments or reports at this time?
No, I just really wanted to express my sympathies to Julie
Mhm.
and her family. I feel that it's a very tragic loss to lose a parent.
especially in that way.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think services will be in the newspaper in the near future.
We've sent
Yeah.
everyone an email with all the, everything's Monday with
Oh,
the
I didn't
times and
check.
locations, a link to the obit at the funeral home.
Okay,
If you
thank
didn't get that for some reason, please let us know in the morning so we can send that back out to you.
Great, thank you.
I will be out of state, but Adam will represent our offices at least one
Oh,
of
I
those
guess I got it.
events.
Okay,
So it's on Monday?
It is, and there's several opportunities between the calling hours, the funeral, the
Okay.
veterans' funeral,
Okay,
depending upon people's availability during the course of the day.
okay.
And we have sent condolences in the manner in which I sent you all yesterday.
thank you.
great, thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Anything else? Do we need to go to executive session, Mr. Tanzini?
I have nothing for you this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Great.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I see none. Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thank you for joining.